Hey everyone, let's be real for a second. What is the number one thing that you probably want when you're using English at work? You want to sound smart and professional. We all know that feeling in a meeting. You're smart, you've done the work, you have the idea, but when you open your mouth, you just say, yeah, what she said, or, I think we should do the thing. Good. It's not about being fake. It's about having the right tool for the job. Your words are tools. And today, I'm giving you 14 upgrades for your verbal toolbox. Words you can use right now to sound more confident, more capable, professional, intelligent, and positive at work. And the best part about today's lesson is that these are small changes that you can make. Sometimes a very small change can have big results, and that's what we're focused on today. So be sure to stick with me to learn these 14 smart words and find out exactly how you can use them with example sentences. And be sure to watch to the end, because the last number is maybe the most important one that you need to know on this list. Let's get started right away. Okay, welcome back. Number 1 is certainly. What are some of the most common words that you hear when someone wants to agree with you or agree to a request? We often say words like okay or no problem, but we use them too much, and they're pretty casual. So if we want to sound a little bit more professional and positive, certainly is a great option. For example, if your boss asks for a document by the end of the day, you could say okay or certainly. Or a colleague asks you to help with a project, you could say certainly, I can do that. Number 2 is the word modify. Let's be honest about something. Most people don't like change. Let's say that you have a project at work, and just before the deadline, you get an email that says there are some changes in the requirements. How do you feel when you get that email? You're probably not celebrating. You're dreading it. You're frustrated. Most people don't like the word change. A better, smarter word that you could use is modify. It doesn't have the same feeling that the word change can have. For example, at a meeting, a colleague might say that we need to change the way that we're dealing with our customers, and that sounds like you have to change everything, and nobody really wants to do that. It sounds like a lot of work. So instead of using change, it's better to say something like, we should modify the way we deal with customers at work. Modify doesn't sound so scary or overwhelming. It's a fantastic word to use in place of the word change. Smart word number 3 is complication. Similar to the word change, there is another word that no one likes to hear at work, and that is the word problem. There's a problem with the order. We have a customer with a problem. The boss has a problem she wants you to solve. None of us like hearing those statements. The word complication is a great alternative, and it doesn't sound as bad or scary. For example, instead of saying, there's a problem with your order, you could say, there's a complication with your order, but we're working on it. It sounds much less serious. Again, instead of, this is a problem, try, this is a challenge we get to solve. Words have energy. Problem feels like a wall. Challenge feels like a game. It reframes the obstacle and makes your team want to lean in rather than lean back. Number 4 is the word sensational. I'm curious, when you think of a word that is native to be positive and show that something is great, what word do you think of? It might be the word awesome. Native speakers love the word awesome, and it's a fantastic word. I use it a lot. I love it. But I want you to have the ability to be flexible in English. I want you to have a vocabulary that you can adapt and use in different situations.
And the word sensational is a fantastic positive word that you can use in place of the word awesome. For example, if I didn't sleep very much last night and I'm feeling super tired at work, and a colleague says, "Hey, I'm going to go to the coffee shop. Do you want anything?" I could say, "Oh, that would be awesome," or "That would be sensational." Smart word number 5 is elaborate. To elaborate simply means to give more details, and there are many times at work when we need someone to clarify something or give us some extra details. So if you're in a meeting and a co-worker says something that isn't really clear, you're not exactly sure what she means, instead of saying, "What do you mean?" you can say, "Could you elaborate?" It's much more polite and professional.
Word number 6 is leverage. The business world loves this word. If you use the word leverage at work, you'll definitely impress some other people. What it means is to get an advantage. For example, so here's a great way we could do that. If we modify our marketing approach, we can get some real leverage over our competitors. We've used 2 words from our list there. I could say if we change our marketing approach, we can get an advantage over our customers. Or I could use these 2 words, modify and leverage, to impress. Word number 7, similar to talking about problems versus complications, we can use ramifications instead of consequences. A bad consequence is when something negative happens as a result of something else, and that word consequence can immediately have a negative feeling with it. So ramification is a great alternative. For example, if your team is talking about how to modify a marketing approach, you definitely need to think about the pros and cons and what the possible ramifications of making that change. We've got just a few more words on our list of smart words to be using at work, and word number 8 is perplexing. I love this word. I don't know why, but I love the way it sounds. Perplexing. You and I know that confusing things happen at work. A customer does something weird, and files disappear. Someone says they sent you an email, but you never got it. In those moments, you could say, "I'm really confused about that situation," or "I'm confused how that happened." But a great alternative is perplexing. That's perplexing. That's a perplexing situation. Or similar to saying "I'm confused," we could say "I'm perplexed." Smart word number 9 is straightforward. Everyone loves things that are easy to do, easy to understand, and straightforward is a great alternative to using the word easy. Instead of saying something like, "This project is really easy," you could say, "This project is really straightforward." Maybe you're working with a new client, and you know that they're going to be wonderful and easy to work with. You could also say, "Working with this client is going to be really straightforward." Number 10. Swap "I have an idea" for "I'd like to propose an alternative." "I have an idea" is what an intern says, and that's fine. "I'd like to propose an alternative" is what a consultant says. It positions your thought as a strategic option, not just a random thought bubble. Or, instead of saying "I don't know," try "I don't have that off the top of my head, but I will find out and circle back by EOD." Complete honesty is great, but in a business context, stopping at "I don't know" is a conversation killer. This version shows you're resourceful and reliable, and "circle back" and EOD, end of day, are great power phrases when used sparingly. Number 11. Instead of saying "we need to talk," say "I'd love to get your perspective on something." "We need to talk" instantly makes people defensive. Their brain goes to worst-case scenario. Inviting their perspective opens a door instead of slamming one. Again, instead of saying "that's a good point," say "I appreciate that perspective." Why? Good point can sound a little patronizing, like you're grading them. "I appreciate that perspective" shows you're genuinely considering their view, even if you don't fully agree. It builds bridges. Number 12. Swap "that's not my job" for "I'm not the best person for that.
but let me connect you with someone who is. The first makes you sound difficult. The second makes you sound like a connector. It shows you care about the solution, not just your job description. And smart word number 13 that you should be using at work, kind of. This word is actually a word that you should avoid, and we're going to replace it with something else. That word is like. Like is used way too much. It has become a filler word, a word that we use when we don't really know what to say. In fact, sometimes I've heard the word like used in the same sentence 2, 3, 4, even 5 times. This is a word that you definitely want to avoid using because it doesn't sound smart or professional. In fact, it can sound uncertain when it's used too much. But the problem is that it's a really great word for some situations, like when you're going to introduce an example. Did you notice I just used it there to introduce what I wanted to say? That is an appropriate way to use this word. But because the word like is used too much, I want to give you an alternative. When you need to introduce information or introduce an example, you could use such as or for instance. Here are a couple of examples. I could say, there are a lot of opportunities like this for our clients, or there are a lot of opportunities such as this for our clients. That one little change makes the sentence much more professional. Another example, you need to be really careful with this client. Like if you go to a meeting, make sure that you're early. Instead of using like, I could say, you need to be really careful with this client. For instance, if you've got a meeting, make sure that you're early. Again, that little change is much smarter and more professional.
And finally, number 14, the power word for any project. Instead of, I hope this works, say, I'm committed to making this work. Hope is passive. Commitment is active. Which one do you want on your team? Let me know in the comments. And now you've got 14 smart words that you can start using at work immediately, and I want you to practice. Look, you don't have to use all 14 of these tomorrow morning. Pick one, just one or two of your favorites from the list, and use them in an example sentence. Maybe swapping "we need to talk" for "I'd love to get your perspective on something." Or maybe it's using challenge instead of problem. Try it out. See how people react. You might be surprised at how a slight shift in language can create a massive shift in how you're perceived. Or you can also share it with me in the comments below. It's a great way to immediately get more comfortable with these words so that you can use them at work in your daily conversations. If you found this lesson useful to you, I would love to know. You can give it a thumbs up, share it with friends and co-workers, and be sure to subscribe to this channel for more tips on navigating the world work. And with that, have a fantastic week. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time for your English lesson.